All right, hello everyone. This is for our grade level team leaders at the high school. This screencast is just going to be a very basic walkthrough of the expectations for tomorrow, Tuesday, September 18th, for the PD portion, called Cross-Curricular Connections. And essentially what we're going to be doing is walking teachers through the process of just beginning to start to realize and think about how to best exploit some interdisciplinary work that we want to move toward this year, with Common Core coming down the pipeline and some more PD that'll be available for project-based learning. This is a discussion that I hope will launch some real innovative ideas and some learning experiences for our teachers, because again, we very rarely get to kind of venture out into our neighbor's curriculum, especially if it's outside of our grade level teams or departments. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is a curriculum map that is modified to include all of the core content areas and elective content areas that relate to the ninth grade team. And so if we're looking at the courses, we have ninth grade English, digital literacy, algebra 1, biology and general science, since there are two different science pathways this year for ninth graders, intro to Chinese, and physical education. You'll notice that many ninth graders take nearly all these courses. However, with physical education, that includes sophomores as well, but we do have two PE teachers, so one will be joining the ninth grade team. And then with the two science pathways, we have about half and half of our ninth grade students. So again, they are both relevant to this discussion. On the month, what you'll notice is that this section here is for the month of August. However, some people take a little bit longer or a little bit less than the entire month of August, but it just happens to work out in the ninth grade clan that it's rather clean. And then finally, the green box, the topic. What teachers have done for me here on the curriculum maps is to go through and put down really the essence of their units. These aren't necessarily having anything to do with the UBD process, but again, these are just simply there to identify, if I had to title this unit, what would I title it, and what are some of the basic facts that I'm going to be covering. And the important part for our discussion today are the objectives and standards. And so if I'm looking under each grade level core content area here, what I'm noticing is that each teacher has provided me with their priority standards per their Understanding by Design unit plan. And so teachers will be able to go through here and take a look at and identify what areas of focus their colleagues have placed value on for their units of study. And so again, this is what I'm looking at, and what I will see once this document has been provided to everyone at the PD tomorrow is that each month, August, September, October, November, and December, just the first semester, will look exactly the same as this. When you walk into the classroom after having broken out into your grade level teams, you will have access to a projector and then all of these files digitally so that they can be projected for easy viewing, and you will also have hard copies of these for each one of your teachers to reference as well. And so now that we know what this is, what we can talk about is what will actually happen during the process of the PD itself. Okay, so what we're looking at now is the just a protocol form, and this is really nothing too complicated. This is just something to help facilitate the conversation. But again, this is what we want to accomplish today. Once you all break out into your grade level teams, we have three major objectives. One, to make sure that everybody in your grade level team, including those teachers that teach electives and mixed grade level courses, become familiar with the concepts and standards addressed by their grade level team peers. So again, if I'm a math teacher, most of the planning meetings and planning time that I have through the ISSN coaching or department time is with my content-specific peers, not with the digital literacy teacher, the English teacher, the Chinese teacher. And so this is one of those major goals for not only today but for the rest of this school year, is to really start to allow our teachers to draw those connections and become familiar with what their peers are teaching and how they are teaching it. Our second objective is to identify those possible interdisciplinary connections. And so as a teacher is going through and sharing what they will be focusing on for any given month or any given unit, all the rest of the peers in the room should be considering how that could possibly connect or strengthen or enhance their own curriculum. And then finally, how best to exploit any of those connections that are identified as interdisciplinary and relevant. And so again, there are many, many different ways to do that. It does not just mean that there has to be some sort of massive joint project, although that is one of the most authentic and valuable ways to do so, according to every bit of research I've seen. There are also elements of parallel planning, where one teacher can go through and support another teacher's curriculum by including materials or concepts or essential questions or ideas that are at least relevant or related to their neighbor's curriculum, or the teaching of common concepts or terminology, identifying and maybe adopting common vocabulary across units, and then finally, just even referencing prior knowledge that they may have picked up in one of your colleagues' courses that has something to do with what you may be teaching or may teach later on in the school year. And so those are the three things we want to accomplish today, and quite frankly, this is not going to be enough time to do all three of those things for every one of the months in the first semester. This is an activity to, again, just open the door, and we will, again, revisit this process throughout the school year this year. So again, with step one, becoming familiar with the content of your peers. What will happen is when you walk into the room, you should project the curriculum map as we looked at here. And once it is projected, the grade level team leader should go through and call upon one teacher at a time, as we see here. So the teacher will explain their topic and the priority standards listed. So let's just go straight to the example. If I call up Ms. Penarroyo first and say, Ms. Penarroyo, can you please walk us through the biology standards for August? What I do not want is for Ms. Penarroyo to get up and just simply read what is on the screen. That will be very boring and a very time-consuming process. What should happen here is the science teacher gets up, goes over the basic idea of what they'll be covering as far as the topic for that first unit, and then try to translate those standards into language that will be at least relevant or understandable by your grade level team peers. And so in doing so, you'll now open that up to questions. So after Ms. Penarroyo has shared her biology information for August in her first unit, the rest of the teachers should be given a moment to be able to ask clarifying questions or point out any points of interest or relevance before moving on to the next teacher. You want to do this process for each content area for the month of August first before moving on to step two. All right, so step two. Grade level team leaders need to facilitate this process of identifying those interdisciplinary connections. And so let's say we've gone through the entire month of August, and now everyone's shared, everyone understands basically what's being covered, how they're covering it, what kinds of concepts and ideas are out there. What potential connections can the group identify? And so this is something to where you as a grade level team leader should really kind of push this discussion and challenge your team to take a look at those standards and those topics and say, are there any areas of potential connection? What are the nature of those connections? Are they content-specific connections, a direct relation? Are they just conceptual in nature? Are they based on certain skills that may overlap? And how strong are those connections? Because if a connection is not really that strong, if it's very weak, that should determine what kind of steps you'll take in step three. And so you'll want to have that discussion, and that discussion, there is no time limit there, but you want to realize that you have several months to get through. But again, if you have a very, very relevant discussion on a specific month, maybe you get to October and you find that there are some strong areas of connection, use your best judgment as to how to time that discussion. And then finally, the third step, if you get this far, is to exploit those connections and determine how best to do that as a team. And so let's say that you've identified a very strong connection that exists between digital literacy, English, and science in one of those months that were identified or units of study. So what is that connection, and is there any potential for the development of something like a joint project, an activity, a lesson? Are there any connections that are just not quite there for a joint project but might be there for parallel planning or support of each other's curriculum? Or how else? How else might, maybe that we're not thinking of something, but how else can we support each other's curriculum through these connections? And so again, this discussion, the team leader needs to facilitate and needs to really take very, very detailed meeting minutes of as well, because we do want to make sure that we not only exploit and identify these connections, but also keep record of them for future reference, because everyone's curriculum, is either refined or revised or rebuilt over the course of the years, and we want to maintain a good record of what we're doing here. So again, if you have any questions on this process, again, the 3 steps are here very clearly. You can feel free to modify as you see fit based on the needs of your grade level team. You will all receive hard copies of, again, this curriculum map document and electronic copies to project to make it for an easier discussion. And I will look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, and I will again clarify this process to the staff before we break out at 2 o'clock. Thank you.